Alright, let's get into it. So there's this guy, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Now he's not your typical president. Suit and tie, shaking hands, kissing babies, no. This man is the transitional leader of Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa. It's been going through, well, let's just say it's been going through a lot. He came to power through a coup in 2022, which I know sounds dramatic. And it was, but he's one of the world's youngest leaders, and he's got this whole revolutionary Pan-African vibe going on. Think of him as the guy who shows up to the party not to mingle, but to flip the table because he thinks the whole setup is rigged. He's been very vocal about kicking out old colonial influences, particularly France, and charting a new course for his nation. So, who is this captain really? He's a military man through and through. Before he was His Excellency, he was on the front lines fighting extremist groups in the Sahel. This isn't a politician who studied debate club. This is a soldier who has seen the direct consequences of global policies on the ground. This experience shapes everything he does and says. He argues that the old ways of doing things, the old alliances, haven't helped his people. In fact, he believes they've made things worse. So, his whole mission, his brand, is about radical change and complete sovereignty. He's not asking for a seat at the table, he's questioning why the table exists in the first place. His leadership style, it's direct, it's unfiltered, and it's very popular with a lot of young people, not just in Burkina Faso, but across Africa. They see him as a hero, someone finally standing up to the big global powers. Neo-colonialism, unfair trade, and being treated like kids who need supervision from the adults in the West. He's part of a new wave of African leaders less interested in diplomatic niceties and more interested in getting what they see as justice for their continent. It's a bold strategy, and it definitely makes for good headlines, I'll tell you that. When you put it all together, you get a leader who is fundamentally skeptical of the international systems in place. He sees institutions like the United Nations not as a forum for equals, but as a stage where powerful countries lecture the less powerful ones. He believes that true independence means not having to go to New York to get approval or to plead your case. For him, the real work isn't done in a fancy hall with translators, it's done back home, by building a country that can stand on its own 2 feet. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. So every year, leaders from all over the world pack their best suits, in some cases their best military fatigues, and fly to New York City. They come for the United Nations General Assembly, or the UNGA, as the cool kids call it. Think of it as the world's most stressful high school reunion. Everyone's there. Popular kids, quiet kids, ones who used to be powerful and now just tell stories about the good old days. It's the one time of year when every country from the biggest superpower to the smallest island nation gets a microphone and a chance to speak their mind to the entire planet. It's a big deal. The speeches are broadcast everywhere, and what is said can set the tone for international politics for the whole year. This year, all eyes were on the delegation from Burkina Faso. Captain Traoré was scheduled to speak. People were expecting fireworks. I mean, this is the guy who has been openly criticizing the global order. So everyone was leaning in, popcorn ready, waiting to hear what he would say on the world's biggest stage. Would he call out specific countries? Would he announce a radical new policy? The anticipation was real. For a country like Burkina Faso, which is facing immense security and humanitarian challenges, this speech is a crucial opportunity. It's a chance to tell the world what you need, to rally support, and to shape your own narrative instead of letting others write it for you. The UNGA is more than just speeches, though. It's about the corridor diplomacy. It's the little chats in the hallways, the bilateral meetings in cramped rooms, the handshakes that could lead to a new trade deal or a peace agreement. For a leader like Traoré, it would be a chance to meet face-to-face with allies and adversaries, to build coalitions, and to make his case in a more personal setting. So, the moment arrives. The President of the General Assembly calls on the representative from Burkina Faso. The name is called. And what happens? Crickets. The seat for the head of state of Burkina Faso is empty. There's no Captain Traoré. There's no last-minute substitute minister. There's just a chair. An empty chair. It's the diplomatic equivalent of a mic drop, without the mic, or the drop. Silent, powerful, deeply confusing. Why fly to New York, get on the schedule, and then not show? The official reason trickled out through his delegation. Captain Traoré said the UNGA is not a forum for genuine dialogue. He called it a monologue of the powerful. A place where smaller nations are expected to perform, to ask for help, but not to be truly heard. Giving a speech would be participating in a charade. He felt his presence would legitimize a broken, unjust system. So he overturned the chessboard. He chose silence as his statement. This was calculated, not impulsive. A political statement. By leaving the chair empty, Traoré said, "Burkina Faso won't be background noise." In conversations where conclusions are already written. He rejected justifying his country's path to former colonial powers. He rejected legitimizing global institutions that dominate, a rejection of protocol, a rejection of the old diplomatic dance. He was telling the world, "You want to know what we think? Look at what we are doing back home. Don't listen for our words here in your palace of talk. Think about the message. An empty chair can mean many things. Absence lost protest. Here, it was protest. A visual argument that voices like his are missing from real decision-making." Now, to understand Traoré's move, you need to know that Africa's relationship with the UN has always been a bit complicated. It's like being in a group project where a few people make all the decisions, but everyone is expected to put their name on the final presentation. When the UN was founded in 1945, most of Africa was still under colonial rule. The continent wasn't at the table, it was on the menu. The early decades were about African nations gaining independence and then joining the UN, hoping to finally have a say in their own destinies and in world affairs. It was a time of great optimism. Leaders like Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah, leaders like Guinea's Sékou Touré came to New York and gave passionate speeches about freedom and a new world order, but that optimism soon met a harsh reality. Many African leaders quickly became disillusioned. They felt that the UN Security Council, with its 5 permanent members holding veto power, was just a new kind of global empire. They could give all the speeches they wanted in the General Assembly, but the real power was held by a small club they weren't invited to join. Think about it. Major decisions about peace and security, including interventions in Africa itself, were often made without meaningful African consent. Over the years, this has created a deep sense of frustration. It felt like they were being told, "We'll listen to you, but we'll do what we want anyway." You had powerful, defiant figures like Libya's Muammar Gaddafi or Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe, who used the podium to rail against Western sanctions and imperialism year after year. These leaders used the UN stage to perform their resistance, to speak directly to their supporters back home and to annoy the world powers. Their speeches became an annual ritual of defiance. They knew they might not change the policies, but they could control the narrative and show their people they were fighting for them on the global stage. It was a form of political theater, and they were the star actors. So Captain Traoré is not the first African leader to be critical of the UN, not by a long shot. He is, however, part of a new generation that is choosing a different tactic. While the old guard, like Mugabe, would show up to shout at the system from within, Traoré is saying the system isn't even worth shouting at. He is taking the critique a step further. It's the difference between arguing with the referee and walking off the field entirely because you believe the whole game is fixed. His empty chair is a silent evolution of the fiery speeches of his predecessors. It represents a shift from demanding a better seat at the table to declaring that the table itself is illegitimate. So, what message does an empty chair actually send? In the world of diplomacy, where every word is carefully chosen and every handshake is analyzed, a deliberate absence is a scream. The first and most obvious message is one of disrespect for the institution itself. It says, "Your stage is not important to me. Your rules do not apply to me. My country's sovereignty is more important than your diplomatic rituals." This is a direct challenge to the post-World War II order that the United Nations represents. It's a shot across the bow of globalism, coming from a leader championing a nationalist Burkina Faso first agenda. Secondly, the empty chair is a powerful symbol of a changing of the guard. For decades, the script was to come hat in hand, poverty-disease conflict, and ask the richer countries for help. Donor-recipient, patron-client. Traoré's absence rejects this script entirely. It says, "We are not here to beg. We are not here to perform our poverty for your sympathy or your aid budgets. We are here to solve our own problems, with our own partners, on our own terms." A graphic illustration showing the African continent with a puzzle piece being lifted out, signifying self-determination. It's an attempt to flip the power dynamic, from dependence to self-reliance. This action is also a masterclass in political communication, especially for the audience back home and for sympathizers across Africa. For the youth in Ouagadougou who see Traoré as their champion, this move is legendary. It's him standing up to the whole world for them.